welcome back to the Cupcake Jemma channel with me, Sally, and Sam on the camera as usual. I am working on coaxing him out from behind the camera so you can meet him properly, but like I said, working on it. And welcome to 2021. It is a brand new year. I'm feeling positive about this year, and we've got loads of great recipes coming up for you guys, but I would still like to hear what you would like to see, so please do keep putting your ideas in the comments box below and I'll make sure to sift through all of them. But we are going to start this year with a classic recipe, and this is for a bread and butter pudding, but it is a cool version because bread and butter pudding is one of those classic British desserts. It's lovely and warming and comforting. It's very easy, but it's a tad one-dimensional for my liking, so I'm going to jazz it up, and you can do as much or as little as this as you would like. But the main thing I'm going to be doing is using a panettone because, I mean, one main reason is because I've actually got loads of them at home because here in the UK we went back into lockdown just before Christmas. So I haven't been able to get rid of all the panettones I bought, and I probably shouldn't just eat them all myself. So I'm going to show you a great way of using them, but you don't have to use a panettone. You could use a brioche, or you could use like pastries such as croissants or pain aux chocolate, or you can just use regular old bread. So the first thing we need to do is make a custard, a very, very simple custard over here on the hob. And we're going to start with 150 ml of both whole milk and double cream. And I'm also going to add in a cinnamon stick. Now you don't have to do this, but I really love a little bit of cinnamon in my custard. So that's going in, as well as some vanilla. So about a teaspoon going in there. And then we're going to turn our hob on to a low temperature. And we're just going to heat this milk very gently for about 5 minutes because I want the flavour from the cinnamon stick to come out. The one thing you want to make sure that you don't do here is boil your milk. So if you feel like it is kind of boiling and getting it a little bit too hot, you can just turn the heat off and pop the lid on and just let that cinnamon kind of continue to steep. Is that the word? Yeah, it's the word. So next up, we're going to put in a little bit of butter to our milk, which is different to custard. I know you don't normally put butter in, but this is bread and butter pudding. So butter going in custard. I've got 65 grams here, and we're just going to let that kind of melt into the milk. Just stir it occasionally. And whilst that's happening, we're going to get on with whisking up some sugar and some eggs. So I've got 50 grams of caster sugar here, or granulated sugar, and we're going to add in 2 whole eggs and 1 egg yolk. And we're going to whisk these together for a couple of minutes until it goes slightly pale and fluffy. There we go. So that's the kind of colour and consistency we're looking for our eggs and our sugar. So now it is time to add our hot, buttery, milky mixture to our cold eggs. And the one thing we don't want to do here is scramble the eggs, which is probably what will happen if you just dumped it all in. So we're going to kind of temper this, which basically means just kind of introducing a bit of warm milk to the eggs, a little bit at a time. So I'm going to pour a little bit in and stir at the same time. And when the first bit's mixed through, just gradually add the rest of your warm milk into your eggs, and that is it. That is custard done. So we're not going to reheat this like you would if you were making like a pouring custard or custard for ice cream or something, because we're going to bake this in the oven. That's going to cook it and thicken it. So that is what I mean by this is really easy, because that's the easiest custard you'll ever have to make. So now we can get on with the super fun part, which is playing around with our panettone. And the first thing we're going to do is get our tin ready. So we're going to start by greasing the inside of our tin or a dish, a ceramic dish, glass dish, whatever you have, with some butter. And then, I mean, I've gone for quite a lot of butter here, but whatever. We're going to coat this with sugar, so Demerara sugar preferably, because Demerara sugar is really chunky and it's really crunchy, and this is going to add a really lovely crust to our bread and butter pudding. And you want to make sure that you get the sides of the dish as well, so just shimmy it all around. And then just tip off any excess back into a little bowl because we will use it again later. So that is our tin ready. And now you need to open up your panettone. So I have got a delicious panettone here that has got cherries and chocolate and nuts in it, but you can use any kind of panettone that you like. So, oh my gosh, they look amazing. Let's just break this open. Oh, beautiful. Gosh, it smells so good. I just want to eat it. I just want to eat it all. But alas, we shall continue with our bread and butter pudding. So grab yourself a knife and we're going to start by lining our tin with sort of one layer of the panettone. So I like to do that with the crusts and the base. So just using a serrated knife, cutting like a nice thin layer of panettone. And then just continue cutting off. I like to again use the bits from the side just to kind of line up along the side of our dish. And this doesn't have to be neat or anything. Like bread and butter pudding is not a neat dessert. We're just patching it all together. So that is our tin lined, and you can use whatever size kind of dish you like for this, or however much panettone you've got. Now the rest of it, we're gonna drench in our custard. So I'm just gonna use my hands for this and tear off big old chunks like this. I'm just gonna drop them into my custard. Give it a little stir around with a spoon just to make sure it is completely soaked, and then we can start piling it into our dish. So one spoonful at a time. Just make one kind of layer along the bottom of your dish. And now it's time to jazz it up. Like I said at the beginning, I'm gonna put some extra things in here just to kind of give this kind of bread and butter pudding the X factor. Now my panettone had cherries and chocolate, almonds, hazelnuts in it. So I'm gonna use some of those things in this kind of middle layer, starting with chocolate. Now I've got chocolate bars here because I prefer them to chocolate chips in this kind of thing because it means you get a nice kind of oozy pool of chocolate. And I've got a dark chocolate, so some of that going in there. And then I'm gonna put in some cherry jam. Now you can use any kind of jam, any kind of chocolate. You can put whatever you want in here. And this cherry jam I'm just gonna put in little dollops, so again we get some lovely oozy pools of it. I'm going to do a little sprinkling of some roasted hazelnuts here, but again you could put any kind of nut in here, or no nuts if you don't want to. You could even put some dried fruit, maybe raisins, sultanas. And then I'm just going to put on the rest of our panettone. If you've got any kind of custard left in your bowl, just pour it over, guys. The more custard the better. And to finish this off, I've got some Glace Cherries I'm just going to stud over the top. And finally, a sprinkling of Demerara Sugar, which is going to give us a gorgeous golden crispy crust. And it is off to the oven. So oven is preheated to 170 degrees C. We're going to put it in for about 25 minutes. What you want is it to be slightly jiggly inside. You don't want to cook it all the way because you do want a little bit of oozy custard still. So we'll show you what it looks like when we get there. Oh my gosh, this smells absolutely divine. It's still a little bit warm, and I know maybe to you it doesn't look like much, but to me, this looks like heaven. Look at these crispy bits on top. It's a little bit jiggly inside, like I mentioned, so I could put this on a plate or a bowl or something, but I don't want to. I've just got myself a spoon, and I'm gonna dig right in there. Get a little bit of that jam. Oh, can you see in here? Look how soft it is. Okay, I'm just gonna, this is a really big mouthful. You might have to bear with me. Ready? And there are so many different textures going on in there because we added all those extra things. Like the chocolate's really smooth, you get a little bit of crunchy nut, and when you get a cherry as well, that nice kind of soft texture. This is so, so, so yummy, and you've really got to give it a go because, I mean, we haven't really got much else to do these days, have we? And this is the perfect thing for winter. Sitting on your sofa, bread and butter pudding, spoon, Netflix, blanket, like what more could you want these days? So leave me to eat this. We'll be back next Thursday with another recipe. I'm gonna bring you some more classics, some cherry bakewell tarts, maybe some banana bread. Do keep giving me your ideas, and we'll see you next week. So until then, enjoy this pudding.